This is Robyn's second show here at WheelHouse Art, and we're thrilled to have her back. And this is bigger and more amazing than the first time. And this is an unbelievably packed house, and just so overwhelmed with the love you guys are showing here for Robyn. So I want to thank you guys so much for coming. I will mention there's a back door this way if anyone needs to step out before we're finished talking. We might see you on camera, but at least you have a way out. Yeah, so one bit of housekeeping. If anyone recognizes this sweatshirt, this sweater, it was left here a couple years ago with Robyn's last show. So we've been holding on to it ever since. So, feel free to claim it if it's yours. I'm sure everyone is pretty familiar with Robyn, and so just real quick background. First met Robyn about 2015. There's a little visual art open studios weekend, and so I got to come meet her and her mom in her studio, and her work was amazing, and she was doing these intimate little portraits of family and friends, people from her community, her neighborhood, and her church, and everything. And then she would also do these interviews with them, record them, and then so I curated a show at the Carnegie Center in New Albany, and we showed that work there. We had a whole grid of 9 of them, and then you could put on headphones and listen to the interviews of the portraits while you're looking at their portraits. And her work has just stuck with me ever since then. So once I took over the gallery, I was very excited when she said yes, when I asked her if she would come show here. So, Robyn, thank you.
Thank you. Also, I was doing something completely different, so to know somebody was interested in what I was doing later was like, oh, okay, cool.
So I guess I'll just get right into it. So your first show here was all drawings, and we did not have any of the ceramic work here. I'm not even certain if I guess you're doing ceramics then, but we didn't show it. So if you could just share with us how you came into ceramics, or
sorry. I started the ceramics in 2019. Actually, I was at a residency for painting. Well, the residency had 2 other artists who were the sculpture and ceramic artists, and then I was the 2D artist. Mm-hmm. And I had the option to everybody could take a class. We were there for a year, and so I always wanted to learn how to do ceramics. Mm-hmm. I had noodled around with sculpture in my my fine arts classes because I was learning anatomy. One of the ways that they taught us how to do it, we had to make an écorché, which was make a little sculpture of the bones and then put the muscles on top of it. So I was familiar with clay, but I didn't know how to do vessels. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to learn vessels. And my friend Nikki taught me how to do vessels. So that was in 2019, and I just kind of ran with it. Mm-hmm. It spoke to me, and it became a part of my practice. Mm-hmm. And then I was just like, well, how do I marry the two? And I started drawing on them. And then the bodies as vessel became a metaphor, because they always were, but it just became more solid and in space, and everything just started to make sense in that way. So that's the beginning of it. And then at the time too, before 2019, my father passed. So feeling all of the emotions with grief and everything just was like, this is too much for me to contain. So I'm going to make something where I can house these emotions and these feelings, and that's where the vessels really took shape and really started to come into play in the bigger aspect of the work.
Yeah. So you have vessels here. You have sculpture.
Yes.
And then you have sculpture of vessels. How do you do you categorize your work, your ceramic work at all?
Yes and no. Practically yes, but as far as what everything represents, no. Everything is the same, but they're just manifested differently. So this is actually the first sculpture that I've done in a long time. Like, I did figures in school, like I said, but they were more, learning the body and learning the body in space, less about an artistic sort of interpretation.
Yeah. More study than expression.
Exactly. And so this was actually done at a workshop where I took, it was called chimeric clay. And I took it because I wanted to see, one, if I could just do it again, if I still understood the language, and I did. And then two, it was just so different. We had to put different animals and bodies together, and this just felt like, me and what I was doing and what made sense. So it was a workshop, but it was still very much what I was still thinking about with the greater aspect of what I'm making. So there's always something that connects things, even though sometimes it does feel unsettled and disjointed. But like I said, even in the artist statement, there's like a thread that connects everything. And I don't think that I could really go out of that, even if I tried at this point, because I'm still working through a lot of emotions and things just in real time. So that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, they are different, and no, they are not.
Good. Clarity.
Yeah.
Like when I was in school, I double majored in drawing and sculpture, and a lot of it, the sculpture I did was stone carving, and I couldn't stand painting. I paint now, but I hated painting then, like just pushing liquid around. I just was not interested. But it was just like I liked the physical nature of both. Like drawing big drawings like this, you got your whole body going into it, and then like the grittiness on your hands. So I'm sure it's similar for you for the clay and
Very
the charcoal.
Much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
It's a very bodily experience, whether I'm working in charcoal or clay, because clay just, you feel it as you're working with it. Even when I'm not making, well, the vessels are kind of interpretations of the body anyway. But when I was doing this sculptural piece, it's like me actually thinking about, how is this rib cage sitting? And if I want it set back, like, how am I thinking about making that? And then how are the breasts sitting on top of that? And then how is this squat? Just thinking about the whole aspect of the pose, right? And thinking about the weight of it all. But it's hard. It's harder for me to think about all of that on, when I'm drawing. But what's easy for me to think about while I'm drawing, that's harder for me to do here, is the motion and the movement. So they help teach me, like, both aspects teach me something about the other, which makes them both better. So which is another reason why I like doing them in conjunction when I can. When I can't, I'm really focused on whatever it is that I'm doing. But I love the fact that now I have a space. I can do them both together. And I love that. And the grittiness you were talking about, when I was doing this yesterday, I was just feeling the charcoal on my hands. I was like, man, I haven't felt this in a while. This is nice. And when I do the clay, I'm like, man, this feels good, So I love all of that, and it all connects me back to my body and what I'm feeling. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mom, when she was doing this, she made sure to cover the carpet because and so for all you all to know, this is kind of a work in progress. So every Saturday, Robyn's going to be coming back here and adding to it, editing. And so it'll be like an ongoing evolution of a piece for the next 6 weeks.
Yes. I am going to skip tomorrow because
I figured. I figured.
I realized, like,
We got to give some time for people to see it.
Yes. Since I did this yesterday. So, yeah. I don't no, I'm kidding. Yes, I do.
We'll wait.
It's gonna happen.
We'll wait. Put him on speaker. You exhibited in the 2024 National Council on Education for the Ceramic Arts, also known as NCECA.
Oh, shoot.
Conference.
Yes. I did.
Multicultural Fellowship Exhibition at the Black History Museum and Cultural Center in Virginia, and Richmond, Virginia.
Joined was in that one.
Who?
Joined was in that one.
So can you tell us about that experience?
It was...
I saw images of the work in there, and it looked phenomenal.
It was surreal. That was the first time I had my work in a museum to be picked by NCECA. Like, this was my second year at NCECA. Carnegie was first time. Oh my gosh, it was. Gosh. First time my ceramics.
Yeah, there you go.
A museum. So the NCECA that was the second year I've been to NCECA. And to see the first year I was there, I was just, it's my first year. I'm just wide-eyed, new at ceramics, just trying to absorb everything. And it's super hard to do because it's a conference, it's several days, and you just want to get everything in. And then you're exhausted because you can't get everything in. But you're seeing so many amazing artists. There's shows and everything that's happening, and then they have their own show, right? And so I was a multicultural fellow, which meant like it's for people who have never been to NCECA. And so being able to go and experience that was like phenomenal. And then seeing my work in the Black History Museum in Richmond was just like, wow, And it was like right after Black History Month, because it's in March, but still also happy Black History Month, everybody. I meant to start with that and then forgot, but it was just so, it was humbling. And I still think about it, and I'm just like, how? Not how, but more like, I'm just really, really thankful because I am new at it. And it feels like you should be at a certain level. Like, a lot of people around me have been doing it for years, and I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll mention real quick, too, that a piece that was in that museum exhibition is Joined, that we have right over here. So if anyone is interested in owning a museum quality piece with immaculate provenance, go see one of my staff members.
And I just want to talk about the piece real fast.
Yeah, please do. I saw a video on Instagram of you talking about it, and I wanted to try to share it in our stories, but they wouldn't let me. So I'm glad that you're...
I don't remember everything I said about it, but like so many pieces in the show, it's the first of its kind. But I was thinking about how we're like people are multiple. We're a multitude as individuals, right? We have different sides of ourselves that manifest differently from person to person. And just as I'm thinking about my work, that's what it's about. This piece has two figures that are joined together, each of them with 3 arms. It's like these figures are separate, but the figures on top of them are joined together. So there's always something else to a person. We have the person that everybody sees, and the person that maybe nobody sees, and then the person that you may not be confident in people seeing. And for me, joined was a way to think about those parts of ourselves that stand separately, because it can be shown separately, but it is meant to be shown together. And so I was thinking about that. There are pieces that fight ourselves. There are pieces that um, they actually go together quite well. And as I was building it, I was wanting it to sit nicely in this space, just as it does. And the drawings that I did were separate. I was thinking about the drawings in a separate way, but the actual building of the piece itself as a whole. So that's really what I wanted to get out of that piece. It's more of a literal interpretation of what my drawings do, I think. So
Well, that kind of leads me into my follow-up question. So that was the 58th annual NCECA conference, and the theme of that conference was coalescence. And on their site, they described that as a process repeated at every scale in nature, from subatomic particles and water droplets to binary stars and black holes. Coalescence occurs when separate elements merge into a single body or group. That sound familiar?
it's very fitting.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about how you see the separate elements coalesce together in this exhibition?
Goodness, yes. So I was kind of telling y'all, everything kind of feels disjointed sometimes. Um, the way that I've had to work in the past has been kind of like, sporadic. I basically work where I can. I didn't have a space for 2 years. So I was working in residencies, the space here, AA Clay, my friend who left because she had to leave, but let me borrow her space for a good time. So it's like in these spaces, you have limitations on what you can do. And so I would just do what I could do at the time. And so everything I could either work on sculpture and ceramics or drawing. And so it started to feel very separate and very different, right? But then the thread is always the same. I'm always thinking about my own journey, my own spiritual, physical, emotional health, how I'm trying to um, grow in these areas, seeing the parts of me that I may not like seeing, parts of me that I know need to mature. And it's like, am I actually doing the work to do that? It's like, who have I hurt and why? Like, have I hurt myself and why? Like, thinking about all of these things, and they all come into play at some point, but also so does play. So there's just having fun.
Yeah.
So there's just what's gonna happen. I don't know. Like if I put this thing on top of this thing, what's gonna happen? I don't know. Like this red piece here, I thought that grayish color was gonna be blacker than that, and it wasn't. And I was like, well, okay. There was like at that residency itself, like there were pieces that I thought were failures because they didn't happen the way that I thought that they were gonna happen. But then you sit with it long enough and you realize it's not a failure. It's just different than what you expected. And now I know how not to do that if I want to not do that.
Yeah.
But I also know how to do that if I want to do it again. So I had to sit with that and like realize like, why am I calling this a failure? I actually went online, I was like, I don't know if y'all saw the stories, but I was like, just crying, or not actually crying, but complaining about the glaze is too cloudy. And then one of the people at the residency was like, it looks misty. And I'm like, it does. It's like, oh, it's mysterious. Oh, okay. So I'm learning how to deal with the things that even I think that I don't like. So that helps a lot. It helps. I like the play, and I like the sadness, and I like the all of it, because I'm all of it. I'm extra. I am.
Yeah. That's great. So I'm sure some of you all know, maybe not everyone knows, but Robyn also has a podcast called Life is Weird, available wherever you get your podcasts. But if you all could do me a favor and get your phones out and put your cameras on for just a second. If you don't already subscribe to our podcast, please scan the QR code and subscribe to our podcast.
I didn't know this was happening.
You got it?
You got it.
We'll set this out later too, but I just got to get Robyn those numbers.
I know, increase my listeners from 5 to 10, please.
So we talked about earlier about the interviews you did with the portraits of your earlier work, and then you also had another podcast that you did prior to Life is Weird. Is there a kind of like a linear growth between those series of interviews and podcasts, or do you compartmentalize them into their own?
I think I've more compartmentalized them.
Standalone projects.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you do a thing, you're going to learn from the thing that you did before it. But I really do think that I've compartmentalized those actual things, those actual projects. But this one in particular, I really am thinking about it as a living thing. So I haven't quite hit the sweet spot yet. I think I'm getting very close to it. Mm-hmm. But I it's not like I don't like what I've done so far. It's just I feel like it needs tweaking. So when I go back into it, so the first season is over. I capped it at the 9 episodes. And then the next season I go into, I'm going to be thinking about how to tweak it in that way. And I've been thinking about different ways to ask questions, mm-hmm. different ways to get people comfortable and get people to share their stories. I think that's really important, especially now. I think it's really important because a lot of silencing is happening. Mm-hmm. And we're living in a very interesting time that I think that especially Americans haven't experienced in this particular way. And except minority of Americans that kind of understand. But especially Black folks. Okay. But my point is making space for people to tell their own stories is very important to me. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that that is a space for that while also being a space where I can tell mine.
Yeah. I was wondering, so kind of like what your drive is to push for these interviews. Yeah. And honestly, they're not even so much straight up interview. Like this is very interview me, question, answer. It's more conversational, yeah. Really. But is it something that you do more for you to gain something personally out of it or insight or whatever, or do you do it strictly for an audience that you feel like other people need to hear and know about this person's experiences, or is there like a balance of those things? Yeah,
it's definitely a balance. I can see
how selfish are you on that scale between the two?
I don't know how selfish I am on the scale, because of course I'm very interested in what the people I ask to talk to me have to say. Mm. But I also want to make sure that they're being listened to. Yeah. And I do ask the people I ask because I do think that they have something that is important for everybody to know, for whatever reason. And sometimes I don't really know until it's like I have the gut feeling, right? I feel it because I already know I need it. And it's like, if I need it, probably somebody else needs it too. And then what validates that is other people like you coming in and being like, I really loved that episode when you were talking to so-and-so, or when you said this thing, or when y'all laughed about that thing. It just was so relatable, and I needed that in that time. And I think that's the reason why I even wanted to do this podcast, because with the last one, I had people giving me that kind of feedback. And I feel like it's important and I do it for the person too. I ask them if they want to do it for one. Not everybody wants to share their story. But I also believe that it's important for them to share their story. Somebody needs to listen. Sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them. And when they have that outlet, when they have that, it just brings something out of them that I don't even think they realize, especially when we can talk and laugh and it be a conversation where it doesn't feel too bogged down. But I also recently learned I have ADHD. So I also need a little bit of a format to kind of help keep me on track. And so it's important all around, I think, for everybody equally, for the listener, for me, and for the person who I am sitting down, or people who I'm sitting down with. So
yeah. Do you see yourself having that sort of same balance of your push behind creating the podcast between your own personal interests and the interests of the audience? Is that balance consistent with your poetry and your drawings and your ceramics and your functional pieces, or does it like shift depending on the medium?
I think, okay, I can't. There's a part of me that wants it to be equal, but I do a lot of this work for me because I need it.
Yeah.
I need the therapy. I need the growth. I need a place to go. I need to, get it all out while I'm writing or draw it all out. And the fact that it resonates with people is important to me. I want people to feel power. I want people to feel empowered when they see my work. But I want to feel empowered too. And one of the reasons why I even started drawing this way is because I needed to feel empowered. I needed to feel like I knew what I was doing. I needed to feel like I was doing something meaningful. And when I heard that other people felt that too, I knew I was doing something that was for not just me. And so I think that it's important to try to have that balance as much as I can. And I do think about my audience. I know Black women are my main audience. I know that because those are the people who get back to me the quickest and with the most feeling that I also feel when I'm making the work. I'm not saying that other people don't enjoy it, and I'm not saying I don't make work for other folks. I just know that they're usually at the forefront. I'm a Black woman. But so I'm thinking about them too. I'm also very much thinking about myself. What do I need today? What song do I need today? What am I experiencing today? It may not always manifest the way I think it's going to manifest, but I just need to play? Yeah, I just need to play. Let's make something small and cute. Do I need to actually express something? Yeah, I need to express something. Let's put on some, I don't know, DMX or Kendrick Lamar and just draw into the whatever that material canvas. So with the podcast, it's really much more balanced. With the work, I'm not saying it's all about me, but it is very much rooted in me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly legitimate. And just the fact that reasons of creating it being so much for yourself, but you're still sharing it with the world. So it's not like it's
it's not completely insular.
Yeah.
I'm not creating art in a vacuum.
Yeah. On your last episode, the last episode of the season of Life is Weird, you talked about a chance encounter that didn't quite materialize.
Yes.
Can you share with that
Yes.
about that experience here?
So, Kimberly Drew, who is a prominent figure in the art community, especially the Black art community, she had a blog on Tumblr where I first saw her called Museum Mammy, where she talked about, reviewed, and educated folks about Black art.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, she was with MoMA.
yeah, and she was talking about contemporary art and artists. And so at Art Basel, this was not last year, the year 2023. I'm just on the bus, minding my business, on my way back to the hotel because I usually go with my friend Kay Sarah. So she wasn't in town yet. So I did something that I don't always do, which is go to a show by myself. I went to the show by myself. I treated myself and I had a good time. And I was happy and I was on the bus back to take a nap because I love to sleep. And so I'm on the bus and minding my business, and she gets on with one of her friends. And somebody's sitting where you're sitting, and then I'm sitting here, and the window's here. And I look up and I was like, is that who I think it is? And it was. And as she comes back, it was standing room only at that point. And so she's standing directly next to the guy who's sitting next to me. And I have all of these thoughts in my head, like, oh my gosh, it's Kimberly Drew. Oh my gosh, you should say something. I'm like, yeah, you should. I was like, but what I'm gonna say? And I was like, I don't know. It's like, what? It's like, oh, you're Kimberly Drew. Like, should I just fan? I don't want to fangirl. That's weird. And then it's like, oh, I'm an artist. Like, okay, and so it's like, and I talked myself out of it, and I just kept reading on my phone. It's like, she's not there. I'm not here. I'm in another world. This is embarrassing. And I talked myself out of the moment. And I went back to my hotel and I sat with that. And I was like, wow, you really did that to yourself. Like, you really talked yourself out of something. You didn't have to have some big grand conversation. You didn't have to be anybody but yourself. But you didn't think that was enough. And so
I was surprised here. Like you,
so I'm not trying to cry.
Yeah.
But
You're in your podcast. You sound so comfortable and conversational with people that you're talking with.
I'm also in this podcast talking to people I've known for years. And so they know me and we have a rapport. Or even if, like with Lanaya, I didn't know her for years, or Ramona, but we got to know each other. And in those moments, I felt good. Like, I already know these people, but when it's somebody who you admire, you've never had a conversation with, it's so easy to make yourself feel small. It's so easy to make yourself feel like what you do isn't enough. And so in that podcast, I wanted to address it because I know other people feel that way too. And it's a lie. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. It's a lie that, maybe somebody else told us. It's a lie that we perpetuate in order to what? In order to what? What's it do? It doesn't serve us. So why continue holding on to it? It doesn't comfort you. It's not a lie that makes you feel good about yourself. So why hold on to it? And so I wanted other people to know that their voice mattered and what they have to say matters. And if they're ever in that space where the imposter syndrome pops up, then it's like, you can lean into it, or there's another option. And it's a little hard and it's a little scary, and you might look like a fool, but probably you won't. You might feel like one, yes, but you probably won't look like one. And what's the worst that can happen? She'd know my name. That's it. And maybe she'll forget. I don't know. I forget people all the time. But it's not that I don't think that they're important, especially not in the moment. My brain. So, but my point is, don't do that. Don't do it. And I'm learning how not to do it myself. I'm very much on that. This is what this work is about. Teaching myself that I am big. I am powerful. I am strong.
That's right.
I am beautiful. I can do it. I have done it. I've done it several times. And it's valid.
Yeah.
And even where I am right now is valid.
Yeah.
So
I completely understand the imposter syndrome. To be honest, I think probably just about everybody feels that. You know, if you don't, then you're some kind of sociopath. So you should probably be happy that you have these feelings, you know, but
you don't have to act on them.
Yeah. It just teaches us that we know we're still growing.
Yeah.
Right? So I want everyone to think about it, and we're going to try to manifest Kimberly, Drew, and Robyn connecting one form or fashion, and we'll get her on Life is Weird one of these days. So what makes you decide to pick up a microphone versus a piece of charcoal versus a slab of clay?
I have never been the type of person who wants to do one thing. I wanted lemonade, I wanted tea, I wanted an Arnold Palmer. It is weird. I don't know. I don't always get tongue-tied when I say it, but y'all know what I mean. I've always been that. It's like my mom used to tell me when I was little, I was on the plane, they would do the drinks. It's like, can I get a whole can? You know, like I'm that person. So it's like, she's hilarious. So when it comes to that, I always kind of want to try, let me try this. Let me try that. What would clay look like? I want to get into metal at some point. I just want to start small, something cute. We'll see what happens if I end up going bigger.
Yeah.
It's just always been that way. Now, I'm also a person who, one, doesn't love hearing herself talk, which is probably weird right now because I feel like I am talking. And two, public speaking, I don't love it. Also weird because I've done at least 2 performances in the past and they were spoken word. So it's like either I'm putting myself in these situations subconsciously to grow myself, or I like, what is it when you're like a, what is the word? Yes, or I'm a masochist. And it's gotta be one of the two. So, but I also see that there's a power and a need behind certain tools that we use to do whatever. And if there's one thing that I want to do with my work, with my voice, whatever, is make a difference. I want things to change. I'm not the activist that's out on the street, protesting in that way. So what else can I do? How else can I change things? I'm thinking about things in a social way. I can create a platform for myself. I can talk about the things that bother me. I can talk about injustice. I can talk to other people who are feeling these things the way that I feel them. I can relate to people. I can try to get people who are thinking it in one way to maybe just try to think in a different way. And sometimes it goes over people's heads. But they're drawn in by the charcoal. They're drawn in by the line. They're drawn in by the material. They're drawn in by the reason why I'm doing something. The vessel is seductive. Whatever it is that gets people asking questions, I think is important to at least try it. And like I said, at some point I hate hearing myself talk. Maybe at another point I do. I don't know. But I think there's power in multiplicity. Again, bringing us back to my point of we all hold multiples. And yeah, I think I answered your question.
Yeah, I think that's good. That some of part of that answer kind of leads into my last question for you. So, drawing, poetry, ceramics, podcasts, knitting, installations, curation, performance, and painting. Are there any other creative mediums that you want to coalesce into the creative force known as Robyn Gibson?
Glass, animation, metal, starting small, like I said. Kind of wood, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see, because I'm not great at. I'm good at additive, but not subtractive. I can't. My brain doesn't work that way.
You can do additive with wood too.
Okay, yeah. That makes me feel better.
Stone is a lot harder to do that.
That's why it's not on my list.
Yeah.
It's not. That's why you don't see me saying marble. Like, no, absolutely not. I have a friend who's great. Like, made some beautiful marble pieces, and I'm like, I'm good. No. But those are the main ones right now. Yeah. Oh, food. Well, I'm not a cook, but pairing food with the ceramics. Yeah, that's actually something that I'm thinking about heavily right now. Working with somebody who makes the food, because I like to eat.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm game. Whenever you're ready.
No, I thought about it for real. I was like, okay, I'm getting out of hand. I was like, ooh, I have plates that I did in another show. It's like, we could set a table. But then I was like, that's kind of a thing in itself. Chill. Okay. I have to talk myself down sometimes. So, yes.
All right, we're going to be looking for
and projection. Things. Sorry.
Projection, yeah. We're going to be looking for glass, metal, projection, maybe some wood. Animation for your next show.
Something else, something of that I'm hoping will manifest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone have any questions for Robyn while you got her on record?
Do you start with a vision, or do you just start drawing?
I just start drawing. Sometimes what I'll do is, because I get intimidated sometimes, so I'll put down a few marks, leave it alone, don't look at it, don't think about it, don't worry about it. Come back, what do I see? Do I see something moving? Do I want to make something start moving? And then I'll put a few more tentative marks, because the first marks are very shy. And then after that, all right, you got to get bold with it. Okay. So then I get into that. And then with this piece, I jumped in because I knew I could erase. These pieces, it's a little less it's a little less forgiving. So the marks are very tentative to start. And then when I have it a little bit more where I think I like it, they get a little bit more confident and a little bit bolder and darker, because I know those lines aren't going to move. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll remind everyone again, Robyn will be coming in every Saturday, except for tomorrow. Every Saturday for the rest of the show. So there'll be 5 weeks. She'll be coming in on Saturdays right at 1 o'clock if you want to watch her do the process of her drawing on the wall. Thank you, Robyn. Thanks for sharing your voice and your experiences with us. And if y'all please